Hi guys, and welcome to my review of this week's Monday Night Raw. So this episode started off rather predictably with Gunther just coming out and just being a total dick, but not so much that it kind of warranted what happened later, or after this segment, which I'll kind of get into. But yeah, sure enough, we had Gunther just come out, and this segment wasn't really anything more than it needed to be. He came out to this just absolute cacophonous wave of booze and verbal abuse and chants and whatnot. The guy was getting some real heat, and obviously Gunther is a guy that's sort of really been built up to take that heat, and he, just like the Saturday night's main event, he took this with a smile on his face and a song in his heart, and if he could have taken all of that heat and injected it into his veins, he would have. In terms of on the mic, he didn't really say anything more than he needed to say, which was, he just came out here and said, that he basically did what he said he was going to do, and he'd made John Cena tap out like a little bitch in his words, and it was just, which was just able to kind of like really crescendo all the booze, and that the guy was just absolutely, strutting around, really strutting around. He goes backstage. The guy was just strutting around like he literally had become like Mr. WWE right now. He looked like he really, really kind of owned the joint. We had people. Kind of like glaring at him. We had Otis and Tozawa giving him filthy looks, and then we kind of got into the segment where I didn't really necessarily agree with it, not to the point that it really affected my enjoyment of it, and maybe I'm looking into it, or maybe I'm just sort of being a bit too nerdy about it. Maybe maybe you'll be kind of thinking, well, settle market's not that big a deal, and it's not, right? Okay, but we had Adam Peters basically come out and basically just, who was equally kind of disgusted with him that he had made John Cena tap, and it was literally like, and just from a kayfabe point of view, you go, well, what are you expecting him to do? He's in a match. Do you know what I mean? Are you expecting him to say that he should have just thrown the match? Just because it was John Cena's final match. It's sort of like, are we leaning into that this match fixing? I know wrestling is predetermined and scripted and whatnot, so it is, but in those world of kayfabe, it's sort of like, you understand what I'm saying here, right? Well, hopefully you do. It just kind of felt like a bit like it felt a bit unearned, and they was kind of saying that Gunther was coming out and acting like an asshole, which he kind of was, but he had basically dismissed him for the rest of the night, and I was like, no, don't send him home, because it was kind of like we've seen, throughout WWE. We've all been watching it long enough to know, but we've had people on the show who were just done way worse. Do you know what I mean? And they still kind of stuck around. I would have liked him maybe more if Adam Pearce had just turned around and gone, well, you think you're pretty big, huh? Well, let's see how big you are when you face off against, and set him challenges, set him obstacles, really kind of, if we're going to use this John Cena retirement match to really, catapult Gunther, to make him look like the big bad, then just do that. Do you know what I mean? Just really kind of, set these bars for him to just kind of crash through. And I do have to take a moment here to kind of like reflect a bit more on the John Cena gone for retirement match, and there's always ties into it. And obviously, anyone who's my review of a Saturday night's main event knows how I kind of feel about the end of that match. How I feel about the decision for John Cena to tap out. It wasn't a decision that I loved. But ultimately, the thing you can kind of say, or you feel has to come out of this, is that it has to be used as this catalyst for Gunther to become the real. I don't want to say top heel of the WWE, but he just has to look like this big bad. And I think maybe a component of that is the heat that he was kind of getting on the way to this, was very much the crowd were very much had this ingrained into their brain of well, we're not going to see you as a big bad because we've already got our response. We are going to hit you with a chance, and we're going to remember WrestleMania when you tapped out to Jey Uso. So we are just going to remind you of that. Do you know what I mean? And we saw still a little bit of that, but here at the start of this match, but the notion of him tapping out to Jey Uso and then coming back and just, and then ending up tapping out John Cena and just, using this as a platform to just skyrocket himself. The whole idea of trying to throw WrestleMania and Jey Uso, at Gunther, it just kind of seems really lame and hollow. Well, after all of that, you know what I mean? Where, you kind of, you could find yourself chanting to Gunther like, you tapped out, you tapped out, you tapped out. And, Gunther just said, I did tap out to Jey Uso. And I came back and just came back even stronger and badder, and I took your hero John Cena and I made him tap out, do you know what I mean? On his final match, do you know what I mean? That's like the fact that John Cena and all of us who hated that decision for John Cena to tap, all of us don't, we all know as much as anybody that decision for the fact that Gunther made John Cena tap hits way harder than the fact that he tapped to Jey Uso at WrestleMania. So this hits completely differently, right? I think you will agree there, and maybe that's all the point. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the whole that's the whole play here. That if you are going to kind of shoot Gunther off into the kind of Mount Rushmore of WWE heels from this, and you kind of have to find a way to silence the crowd as well. And you think that maybe all of that played into it. Who knows? But it's still not a decision I love. But it's maybe now that the dust is starting to settle, I can maybe look at it maybe a bit more objectively. And we've got AJ Styles retiring next year, so it was played that we had it was teased that maybe Gunther is going to be the guy that retires AJ Styles as well, which would make kind of a lot of sense. He's retired Goldberg, he's now retired John Cena, so it would kind of make sense. There's been rumors about Brock Lesnar retiring as well. I mean, if we got a retirement back between Brock Lesnar and Gunther, then that would be just I would be totally down for that. I know it would be heel versus heel, but that would be an absolute banger. Well, maybe I'd prefer it if it wasn't a retirement match, actually. And I'm going to come back a bit now into the whole John Cena retirement decision, because We had got this counter argument. It was reported that we got this counter argument from Triple H where, he defended the decision for John Cena to tap out, going, there's just time on the traditions in this business, and, that's just one of the traditions in wrestling where you have your final match where you give back to the business, and, you use your final match to kind of catapult somebody else or another rising star, which, I think has some validity, but at the same time, it really doesn't. It's not a defense that I like, because I do kind of feel like if you are just going to play the hand and go, well, we're just going, this is just a time on the tradition, and I'm damned if this is going to end on my watch, then it's almost like you've just played your hand, and there's no real excitement going forward for it, or any real intrigue, should I say. Maybe excitement isn't the right word, but maybe intrigue, because if you have then this retirement match between Gunther or AJ Styles, or Gunther and Brock Lesnar, or whoever, then we can't all come back here and get our heads together and geek out on these like prediction videos like we do and go, I wonder what's going to happen here, because you've already declared what's going to happen here. You're going to hold up this time on the tradition. We know that Gunther is going to be AJ Styles if it's a retirement match, and it kind of so I just kind of I don't really necessarily like the idea of you using this sort of time on the tradition as kind of gospel, because I do think that you then just play your hand and you take any sort of predictability out of the match and the outcome, and it just and that's kind of like the thief of creativity, I guess. I know, like I said, I know wrestling is all predetermined, but we kind of want to act like it's not. We want to feel like, think, oh, what is going to happen here? Basically this whole backstage segment, it ended with Gunther obviously being dismissed with AJ Styles parking lot. He drove off. He just kind of trolled AJ by doing this scene, you can't see me thing, but laughing before driving off, which is another reason why I think like Gunther is just such a perfect heel in these situations, because not everybody could have like done that and got away with it. I think that as I said before, I'm absolutely loving Gunther's heel work, and I think he could be the perfect heel to kind of carry this level of heat that would come from tapping John Cena out in his retirement match, all of that was good. So we basically had the Usos and the New Day again here. This is a tag team rivalry that we've seen before. We haven't seen it in a while, and we like I said, because this was this was just an absolute banger of a match. Lots of really great in-ring ability. You knew that these four guys were going to deliver. All four of these are really like phenomenal athletes. I really do. And yes, even I'm even including Jey Uso in there. Yes, I know he has his botches and whatnot. But that's the real world that we live in, unfortunately. And I do think when you have all of these online trolls who kind of like really want to stick into Jey Uso, I'm like, well, you go out every week and you do the stuff that he does, and let's see, and we'll cast a critical eye on what you do. Do you know what I mean? These are four guys I really admire. Before, as I said in my previous Raw review last week, I'm really great that they've taken the decision to reunite the Usos and just use this as fuel to reignite the tag team divisions as well, because that's a division that's been stagnant for so long here. So I just really like the fact that they've kind of decided to to really, pump some more fuel into in and reignite the tag team divisions. And I've always been saying that how the New Day have been just so kind of underused in Raw. While I've enjoyed all of their stuff on the mic and their kind of clowning around antics and all of that, and it makes me chuckle, and that's all part of what wrestling is. But yeah, there is a part of me where you've got these phenomenal athletes and you're just not utilizing them to the best of their ability. So you've kind of got this. So you basically had this juxtaposed with we had Io Sky and Rhea Ripley coming out as well, and we had them being attacked basically by the Kabuki Warriors. It started off with Oscar appearing in the crowd and hit Rhea Ripley with his blue mist, and then they beat down. So yeah, this again, like coupled with the Usos and New Day match, we saw last week, we seen these promising signs that they were going to put more focus onto the tag team divisions in this. Although we didn't get a match here in the women's tag team, we kind of still, managed to, I think, move that needle and kind of still continue to offer that reassurance. We were going to get more, more tag team focus here on Monday Night Raw. And after all the women's tag teams are coming out of the cracks here, it kind of makes sense why maybe Rhea Ripley and Io Sky would be the main contenders for them to push a feud with the Kabuki Warriors over with the Io Sky connection. I'm all down for it. We'll see what the coming weeks bring. But I'm all down for it. We had a fire promo from CM Punk as well, continuing this build towards his match with Bron Breakker. Obviously, we've been over the past couple of weeks, we've seen these two fire promos from Bron Breakker, and absolutely CM Punk came back this week and just absolutely met him here. He was, really saying things about his family and the Steiner brothers. He had said something along the lines that if he mentions his wife's name again, he's going to pee on his single digit IQ or something. And then when he had said something along the lines that after he was finished with him, he's gonna have to just play around on a TikTok with that other YouTube scammer and stuff. I think I just went on to kind of like meltdown because that's a real thing. So there's a real case, behind that. So it was kind of, it was kind of like all that CM Punk, kind of was completely fearlessly in dropping this, and it was just delivered. It was in such a way that you really believe that CM Punk really legitimately was pissed off during this promo, it did everything that it needed to. It just still, absolutely built for this what is going to be an absolute banger match on Raw between Bron Breakker and CM Punk. And I guess you could do it either way. I guess you could have Bron Breakker win on that episode of Raw and then CM Punk win on WrestleMania, or the other way around, maybe, or you don't have CM Punk win it back, maybe you just go into this really big long run with Bron Breakker. I don't know, but I don't have any too many preference about which way around they do it, to be honest with you. But I just feel like as long as Bron Breakker ends up, just having this Fire 2026 that they're promising, I think that as long as it kind of that's the end result, then I'm all kind of like down for that. We had we had the match here between Raquel Rodriguez and Stephanie Valquer. This ended up in the disqualification with Nikki Bella getting involved, which was the only thing about this, though I wasn't really a big fan of this. In fact, maybe this was the only moment in the whole episode of Raw that I kind of groaned a bit and was a bit like, oh, you know. And I get it, you know, like I said, keeping within that sort of world of kayfabe. I get it, why Nikki Bella would come out and she would, you know, Raquel Rodriguez attacked her last week, so she would come back and want to get revenge. I get it. I guess we are moving towards a triple threat match between these three. I guess that's a play here. But yeah, I just don't know if there's so much appetite for this. I think that there would have just been a bit more appetite for Stephanie Valquer and Raquel Rodriguez on the one-on-one and not have Nikki Bella, you know, kind of infused in this for like a rerun. It does make me a little bit apprehensive that they're keeping Nikki Bella in this feud. It does make me wonder about whether Nikki Bella could actually pick up a win here in this proposed triple threat. Yeah, let's just go ahead and call it now that they're having a triple threat. I do think that maybe it's made me a little bit apprehensive that Nikki Bella is going to win that one. Just because I can't really, obviously they did make the decision to turn her heel prior to that, and you kind of think, what is Nikki Bella going to accomplish by turning heel? There's got to be kind of maybe a play there, and I don't know. I don't know, but it does make me a little bit apprehensive that we could see a title change. And I feel like maybe we could have Nikki Bella pick up the title there. I don't really want to see it, but I'm having a feeling that I have a sneaking suspicion that might be the play here. So we had another really fun backstage, not fun backstage segment, but we had a real intriguing backstage segment here with a Judgment Day as well, where you could just see the eyes of Liv Morgan where she was giving these really cold death stares to Raquel Rodriguez. I don't know how Raquel Rodriguez is still like, it seems to be totally in this state of euphoria over Liv Morgan's return and just doesn't see it at all. And she's like, oh, big sister, you know. I just kind of like, and you're like, do you not see these death stares? Like, but it's sort of like, you know, there's definitely something there. And yeah, I like the fact that they haven't totally, you know, revealed their whole hand here, but I love the fact that it's sort of so contrasted with how much she's really, you know, being really overjoyed and euphoric with Roxanne Perez, you know, in contrast to these cold death stares that she's giving Raquel Rodriguez. I'm just loving it. It just makes me intrigued. It's just made me kind of want to tune in every week to see the development of all of this, which, you know, we're never going to get a Judgment Day fallout. We're going to get that play, but yeah, I am intrigued in the way that it's playing out here. So yeah, we moved on to the main event then, which was Logan Paul against Rey Mysterio. Again, another banger match. You know, I'm willing to admit that, you know, Logan Paul, while he's kind of a guy that we all love to hate, you have to admit, you know, the guy's really talented. The guy's got a lot of in-ring ability. He has really developed so much since his arrival in WWE. I think his styles complements the lucha style that we have with Rey Mysterio here. We had Logan Paul picking up a win here, so you maybe kind of like had this little bit of a passing of a torch moment. But the big thing about this match was that we had the masked man come in. We had basically Paul Heyman provide Logan Paul with a brass knuckles. Rey Mysterio was able to was able to reverse this. This caused the referee to notice the brass knuckles on Logan Paul, so they were out. And then Rey Mysterio was having this like heelish moment where he was considering putting the brass knuckles on himself. He was about to make that kind of little step towards the dark side and put the brass knuckles on, when we had the masked man come out again, who again delivered a stomp to Rey Mysterio, allowing Logan Paul to pick up a win. The difference was we had CM Punk come back out again to try and help Rey Mysterio. He had come out earlier in the match as well, where the Vision had got involved, and CM Punk had come out then as well and fought them both off backstage to help Rey Mysterio. But yeah, he came out, the Masked Man out, and the difference that we got here was we finally got the reveal of the Masked Man. Well, I say finally, I'm surprised that they didn't actually try and draw this out more. A bit more, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm kind of glad that we didn't, because I was saying in my previous reviews, I felt that this was kind of maybe a bit of a gimmick that maybe would get old quite quick. So in that sense, I'm kind of glad that they have pulled the trigger on this. But yeah, we had the reveal, and then we had the reveal that it was Austin Theory, who's now done in a kind of Justin Timberlake type look. We had Austin Theory return here. That could be it done now, then. We still don't know where he fits in with the Vision, if at all. Is he just, is he intervening to help the Vision, or has he just got his own agenda? We'll have to wait and see. And also, maybe to play devil's advocate, maybe we're not totally done here. I mean, obviously, the general consensus online was that this Masked Man was going to be Austin Theory, and sure enough, that's kind of what they've delivered. So they could just keep it at that, but there is a part of me that just wants to play devil's advocate and think, well, we did see 2 interventions, I believe, from the Masked Man, so maybe they could do a little El Grande Americano thing where they have these multiple runs, or well, we've only had the Masked Man again twice, haven't we? So they could only have a second one, But yeah, I kind of hope we don't, but that it doesn't go to the same extent as they took with the El Grande Americanos ones. But yeah, that could be a swerve. I think, just to play devil's advocate, there could be a potential swerve here where we could have a reveal of a second Masked Man. I think maybe. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But but yeah, and then this was able to allow Bron Breakker to return to deliver the spear to CM Punk with all of these interactions and him kind of reacting to Austin Theory's reveal and stuff. It allowed Bron Breakker to hit him with a spear. And this is kind of a note that we ended it on, with Bron Breakker standing over CM Punk, and it was. So yeah, it was everything. Like I said, this was this was a pretty solid episode of Raw again. Again, I wouldn't necessarily put in the category of being a great episode of Raw or a bad episode of Raw. I just thought it was solid. I wasn't a big fan, like I said, of the Nikki Bella stuff, but that was my only real, like I said, and also I guess I didn't like the fact that the whole bit of Adam Pearce sending guns for home. I wasn't a big fan of it. I think maybe you could have done more there, but on the whole, other than that, really solid episode of Raw. I thought, it's made me intrigued to see where all these other storylines kind of continue to go over the week. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, don't forget to ring a bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm always uploading regular wrestling content up onto this channel. So yeah, feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your own thoughts on this episode of Raw was, and what maybe your own sort of fan theories are on where things could potentially go from here on out. All of that fun stuff, let me know down in the comment section. Yeah, again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.